I never bought this land to impress anyone. I bought it to escape people. 20 acres of rolling fields, quiet breezes, and the sound of cattle grazing. It was supposed to be my peace after years of city noise and cramped neighbors who thought every inch outside their fence was public space. This land wasn't just property. It was my heritage. My grandfather grew up raising cattle. My father grew up repairing barns and fences. I grew up hearing stories about responsibility, respect, and the quiet strength that comes with working the earth. So when I bought the land just outside the HOA neighborhood, I knew exactly what I was doing. I specifically confirmed in writing, county and state recorded, that this land was not under the HOA. I didn't want rules. I didn't want monthly dues. I didn't want people telling me where I could park my tractor or what color I had to paint my barn. The HOA president, Karen, claimed she tried to welcome me, but what she really wanted was control. She'd walk up to my fence and comment on how I should tidy up the look to fit the neighborhood standard. I ignored her. I thought ignoring her would solve everything. I was wrong. The day I walked outside and found 15 of her friends spread out across my pasture having a full picnic with tents, coolers, speakers, and kids screaming, I realized this wasn't just an annoying neighbor situation anymore. This was violation and disrespect. And that kind of disrespect only gets worse if you don't stop it the first time. 2. I approached calmly that first day. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just reminded them that this was private property, not a community park. Karen, completely unfazed, laughed and said, "Relax. Nature is for everyone." One of the dads chuckled and popped a beer open, like he was settling in for a long stay. A little kid was climbing my fence while another chased my chickens. I told them to leave. They shrugged, like I was a joke, like my ownership didn't matter. So instead of arguing with a group of people who had already decided that my land was a playground, I turned around, walked inside, and started planning. Because I knew people like Karen, they don't stop when asked. They stop when forced. That night, I ordered 8 trail cameras, motion activated, live feed notifications. I walked the fence line the next morning and installed each one where I knew they entered. The South Creek Bend, the low fence corner behind the HOA walking trail, and the back gravel road where they parked their cars. It took only 2 days before my phone started lighting up every evening with snapshots. Karen leading groups like she was guiding a nature tour. People bringing dogs that chased my livestock. Teenagers playing loud music or running through the field like it was a summer camp. And then I saw the picture that changed everything. A teenage boy throwing rocks at Max, my largest bull. Max, who weighs over 1,800 pounds. Max, who had never hurt anyone but could flatten a man if he felt threatened. That picture wasn't just trespassing, it was danger. Not just to my animals, but to those kids. And I wasn't about to let someone's stupidity turn into tragedy on my land. 3. I printed every photo, time-stamped, geotagged, clear faces, and placed them in a folder. Then I went to Karen's house. She opened the door like she had been expecting applause. When I calmly told her what I had documented, she flipped instantly from arrogant to offended. "How dare you spy on us?" she gasped. I held the folder up. "How dare you bring people onto land that doesn't belong to you?" She crossed her arms and said something I will never forget. "We have all decided that this area behind the homes should be shared. Community recreation space. We, meaning the HOA, meaning the group she controlled, meaning she actually believed that their vote overrode my legal deed." I didn't argue. You can't reason with someone who believes they are entitled to what you own. I simply said, "If you step on my land again, I will escalate this." She rolled her eyes and muttered, "You can't stop us." I didn't yell. I didn't insult. I just turned around, walked back to my property, and locked the main pasture gate for the first time in months. I reinforced the weak fence areas. I placed new signs. Private property, no trespassing. Livestock on pasture, enter at your own risk. I knew she would try again, and I was ready. The next weekend proved me right. Perfect sunny day, breeze moving just enough to make the grass sway. And like clockwork, cars began pulling up again along the roadside. Karen led them like she was conducting a parade. Picnic baskets, folding chairs, kids running in circles like they already owned the land. They walked right up to the gate and stopped. Locked. They looked confused. Karen wasn't confused. She was furious. She stomped to my front door and banged like she was the sheriff. When I opened it, she didn't even say hello. Just said, "Unlock it." Now, I said, "No." She tried threatening me with fines, as if the HOA had jurisdiction. I reminded her, again, that my land was not under HOA control. She turned red. I could see the moment she realized arguing wasn't going to work. She turned back to her group, ready to climb the fence. That was the moment I walked to the barn, unlatched the pasture gate, and released Max and the other bulls into the main field. Not aggressively, not chasing anyone, just letting them graze where they belonged. The moment the group saw the bulls, everything changed. Bulls don't need to run or roar to be intimidating. Their size does the talking. And suddenly, the community picnic crowd remembered that farmland isn't a playground. The fear was instant. Karen froze. Parents grabbed their kids. Someone dropped a cooler. Max pawed the ground once, just a natural movement. But to them, it looked like a threat. Karen shouted across the field, "You're putting us in danger." I shouted back, "You put yourselves here." Not once did the bulls approach. They just grazed, walking slowly, heavy and calm. But the message was unmistakable. This land is not yours. The group backed away. No laughter, no entitlement, no relaxed picnic chatter. Just quiet fear and retreat. Except Karen. She stayed, pointing, shaking, screaming about lawsuits and public access rights. I told her very clearly, "Take one more step and I'm calling the sheriff." And I have a folder full of proof. For the first time since I met her, she went silent. Then she turned around and walked away, shoulders stiff, anger radiating off her, but defeated. I didn't wait. The next morning, I drove straight to the sheriff's office. I placed the folder on the counter. The deputy looked through it page by page. No confusion, no hesitation. "Yep," he said, "that's trespassing. And the kid with the rocks, endangering livestock." He went directly to Karen's door and issued an official warning. "One more incident and charges will be filed." When the warning hit her, she exploded online. Neighborhood Facebook group, HOA group chat, long dramatic paragraphs claiming, "I intentionally terrorized families with dangerous animals." I didn't argue. I didn't post paragraphs. I wrote one sentence under her rant. "They were on my property." And that ended her narrative. The neighbors turned. They didn't want to be associated with a woman who endangered children and lied about property rights. Karen lost the thing she valued most, control. With her influence gone, she tried to apologize. But it wasn't a real apology. "I'm sorry if you felt upset," she said, which means nothing. I told her the apology only mattered if she took responsibility and ensured. Every HOA resident knew the land was private. No shortcuts, no walking trails, no picnic access, no exceptions. She agreed, not because she respected me, but because she feared consequences. And sometimes that's enough. I installed new fencing not to keep the bulls in, but to keep the entitled attitudes out. And with time, the trespassing stopped. The field stayed quiet again. The bulls grazed peacefully. The land finally felt like mine again. And if there's one thing I learned, it's this: boundaries mean nothing unless you enforce them. You can be polite. You can be calm. But when someone thinks they are entitled to your property, your time, your peace, you cannot just hope they stop. You draw the line. You lock the gate. You gather proof. You let consequences speak louder than arguments. So if you ever deal with your own Karen, whether it's an HOA, a neighbor, or just someone who thinks what's yours is theirs, remember my story. You don't have to scream. You don't have to fight. You just have to stand firm. Respect your land. Respect yourself. And never let someone rewrite ownership just because they think they deserve something they didn't earn.